Hello. In this video, we are going to take our BeanRun game and add a lot more enemies to it. And we're going to stretch out the world a little bit more to make it kind of like a side runner. All right, so I'm going to find the spot where I made my enemy. All right, so here is where I actually added a thing, an object with the enemy tag with the red color. All right, so that's my enemy that I have here. I want to actually make that happen over and over and over again. So luckily in Kaboom, there's this nice function called loop. So loop is going to repeat my code based on certain settings that I give it. So I'm going to add that function in here. So I'm just going to make some space. Eventually I'm going to mix these two things, but I'm just going to find some space right here, and I'm going to call that loop function. All right, now the loop function takes in two things. It takes in how many seconds it waits before it happens again, that it's going to repeat this code, and then the code that actually happens. All right, so let's have it create a new enemy every 1 second or so. So I'm going to say 1, then comma, and this is where I actually put the code that goes there. Now I can't just copy and paste the code right away. I have to have a function. It's what's called a callback function, but it has to be inside of a function here. And we've been kind of used to doing these arrow functions, so let's just do the same thing. So as my second parameter, after that comma here, I'm going to do an arrow function. So parens, arrow, curly braces, and then just kind of space that out. All right, so in between those curly braces, that's where I'm going to put this code. So I'm going to take that code for spawning the enemy, and I'm just going to move it right into there. All right, I do kind of want to clean this up a little bit, so I'm going to put my cursor in front of that square bracket. I'm going to tab that over. So I press the tab key, next to the Q over there. And then I'm going to select this stuff and do the same thing, press the tab key, just to make it look a little bit cleaner. So I can kind of tell what my layers are right here. All right, so this is the code that's going to repeat every second. All right, and I'll just kind of clean up my white space here. There we go. All right, so let's see what that looks like. So once the game loads, then we should get those new enemies are spawning, all right, every second like that. All right, so they're spawning from the position that we tell them to, but yeah, we keep getting enemies. Okay, so we definitely want to slow this down a little bit. 1 second is way too fast, so maybe more like 3 seconds as it waits before it spawns the next enemy. Okay, yep. Yeah, so that's feeling a little bit better. All right, but now that's, it's kind of made our game pretty different. And as I was playing around with something, I got rid of my platform here, so I need to fix that. All right, so because I want to take this here. Now, in my version of the code right now that I have, I only have the one platform here. So if your line numbers look a little bit different, that's why that is. All right, so let me just update this to be more. So yours probably looks more like this. If I remember right, the position was like 250 and 300 for that second platform, right? So I'm really just updating my code to be more like what you all have. Okay. I think this position I actually want to be a little bit farther away. And this first platform, I actually want to stretch this out to be really quite far. So I'm going to make this rectangle more like, let's even try like 3,000 pixels wide. All right, so in that first place where I add a platform, I'm actually going to make that 3,000 pixels wide. And I'm still going to start it at this position here. just kind of see what that looks like. And then I should at least get my other platform back in my code at least. Yeah, there we go. Yep. Now this spawning point and this platform over here, I want to move that a little bit farther down. So I'm going to take this platform where it used to have an X position of 250 and a Y position of 300. I want to move this a little bit farther. Let's set it at like 2500 maybe. And I kind of want to do the same thing for the enemies. All right, I want to set their starting position as 2500. About 2550 to be kind of inside that platform a little bit. All right, so at first we shouldn't see any enemies here, but this platform is supposed to be pretty long, so by the time they finally get over to us, then they should move this way. Yep, all right, so we eventually do get those enemies coming at us. Then that would be part of our challenge then to avoid those enemies there. So with that being the case, I kind of want to move my coins then a little bit farther down. So I'm going to set the position for this one coin to be more like 500, and the position for the other coin to be more like 1000. That way they're a little bit farther spaced out. And I might not even see, just in my current view, I might not even see that first coin. Okay, so I can still see that first coin there. I think I do need to move these down a little bit, so maybe more like 150 on the Y positioning for these coins here. When you're making games, a lot of times you do have to work with the positioning of things. It's kind of a trial and error process to get it right, to make the challenge, not too hard to win the game, but not too easy as well. So you do have to play around with these numbers a bit, but at least we should be at this stage where we do have a bunch of enemies spawning. We have this really long platform, and the idea behind our game here is to get to the end of that whole course. All right, but then also picking up the coins. All right, and I did leave my game running a little bit, so I'm going to press stop. With it spawning all those enemies, eventually it kind of overloads the RAM, having too many on there. So it might be a good idea to press stop there. We're not doing our proper disposing of the enemies that are done with. All right, so now that we have this bigger world, you might have tried to play it where you start to move the player around and you can't even get to that second coin, or maybe you did, but it's really hard to see because it's over on this part of the game that we're not even in right now. So what we need to do is to get the camera to follow the player. All right, and there would be a few different ways to do this. But luckily in Kaboom, there's a nice function that just updates the position of the camera. All right, so in almost any video game you think about it as a camera that's looking at the game. Cameras are a little more important in 3D games, but they can be important in 2D games as well. So because we are moving, we want the camera to follow our player so that we could see what the rest of the world is. Now that's something that we want to happen constantly. So what I'm going to do is go down here to where I was doing actions on all the enemies. And we probably could reuse it, but to be safer, I'm just going to make a new one. All right, so I'm going to call the action function again. But I'm not really going to pass in a tag. I'm just trying to do something constantly. So I'm just going to jump into my arrow function. So parens, arrow, curly braces. All right, so this is the function that I want to constantly happen throughout the whole game. I'm going to use the cam pause function, which allows me to set the position of the camera. Now this part is wrong, but I could show you if I set it to maybe like 1000 X and 300 Y. Just kind of take a look at what that even does. Yeah, all right, so I can't even see my player. I should see my enemies faster than what I used to because I'm over at 100. That's that coin that's at 1000. So that's what I'm looking at here. All right, so I can see that I can move the camera position to a certain location, but what I want to do is to have it be based on the position of the player. So I could try to figure out those two numbers right there. This cam pause function could take in two numbers, or it could take in one pause, one position. All right, so I can just say player.pause. So the pause is those two numbers kind of packaged together. All right, so you can see how, it kind of has this little strange view in it when you jump. It feels kind of funny, but yep. So now we are moving around. I got lost when I was hiding behind myself there, my image here. But yeah, all right. So we got the camera to follow. That way we could watch the player move all the way along the screen.